Hello everyone, Jimmy the Scottish Geek guy here. Just back from the latest secret screening at my local Cineworld. For those who don't know, Cineworld cinemas here in the UK hold secret screenings or advance screenings for their unlimited card members. It's usually a movie that's about to come out in the next kind of 1 or 2 or 3 weeks. Tends to not be like the big blockbuster movies. Like you're not going to get like a Star Wars or a Marvel movie usually in one of these advance screenings. But nonetheless, it's quite a good perk that you get as part of the service for being an unlimited member. The only caveat is you don't actually know what film you're going to see until you get there and you're in the screen and you see the BBFC title card flash up. That's when you know what you're going to see. So you reserve your ticket for free. Well, not for free, but it's part of the service for unlimited. And then you go and you sit in the cinema and you wait for the movie to start. Tonight's secret screening was a little movie called Scrapper. Let's get into it. Written and directed by Charlotte Regan, Scrapper tells the story of 12-year-old Georgie. Georgie is living in a council estate. She has sadly recently lost her mum to, we don't know what, probably guessing cancer or something like that. So Georgie is actually living on her own in the same council estate flat that she lived in with her mum. She has managed to convince the local authorities, her school, the social workers and whatnot. She's managed to convince them that her uncle, Winston Churchill, is looking after her, and she's just going about her life. She is like a typical 12-year-old or like a non-typical 12-year-old. She is taking herself through the 5 stages of grief and ticking them off on a notepad like it's a piece of homework. She's getting by in her life like this with her best friend Ali, who is played by let me check that name, Alin Uzun. Apologies if I'm butchering the pronunciation of that name. So they're going about their daily lives. It's the summer holidays, so school isn't too much of a concern right now. She is trying to process the loss of her mum in her own way, and everything is going as well as can be expected until a spanner is thrown in the works. A spanner in the shape of Jason, her 30-year-old estranged dad. Jason turns up, having never met his daughter, or at least, only not been a part of her life for as long as Georgie can remember. Jason turns up and, that's where the drama starts. Jason is played by Harris Dickinson. Some of you might recognise him from Triangle of Sadness, and I think he was in a movie called Beach Rats a few years ago from 2017 or 2018. The movie is really about these two people, these two lost souls. It's about the immature 30-year-old dad trying to connect with the overly mature 12-year-old daughter. And that's the movie. This movie came out of Sundance earlier this year, or last year, I'm not sure which year, but it won one of the awards at Sundance, and rightfully so, because this movie is pretty good. Let's talk about it. The success of a movie like this really hinges on one thing, and that is the central performance of Georgie, played by Lola, let me cheat here, Campbell, played by Lola Campbell. Her performance really is great. It's such a believable, understated, just very naturalistic performance of this 12-year-old girl. I don't know how old the actress was when she was filming it, but the character is 12, and she looked 12, so we'll go with 12. Her performance carries this movie. She really knocks it out of the park. I don't know if it was her debut or not, but for a young child actor to get this level of performance from a child actor is really quite something special. It's quite astounding. As I said, it's a very natural, very believable performance. I think Georgie, the character, is in this movie, like in almost every scene she's in, like 85-90% of the movie. So that's a lot to carry, and she carries it, as if it's nothing. So kudos to both actor and director for that. The performances across the board are really good in this movie. Her dad, Jason, played by Harris Dickinson, is a very good performance as well. His character is really, his performance, sorry, is really quite understated. It's really quite subtle. There's no like massive outbursts or anything like that. There's no like, Oscar bait scenes or monologues. It's a very understated, very naturalistic, subtle performance. Like he does more with like facial expressions and micro twitches than he does with lines of dialogue. I mean that as a genuine compliment. I think his performance is very, very, very subtle and very understated, and very, very good. So Scrapper, as the title suggests, is a little bit of a scrappy movie. Scrappy do. Visually, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Visually, this movie, on the one hand, as you might expect from a drama like this in this setting, there's a lot of scenes that are very rough and ready, very kind of gritty and very, very handheld, very kind of cinema verite, shaky, handheld footage. But in contrast to that, there's quite a good few scenes where the camera's locked off and static, and Georgie is framed within that frame, but at the bottom of the frame with like a big wall or a big building or a big hallway behind her. I don't think that's an accident. I think the filmmaker is using the contrast in these two styles of cinematography, of camera movement or lack thereof. I think the director is using these two contrasting styles to help the audience kind of get into the mindset of Georgie, because Georgie's 12 years old and she's dealing with the death of her mum. She can't verbalise how she's feeling. So when the camera work is all crazy and chaotic and all over the place, that's what's going on inside Georgie's head. And when the camera is locked off and on the ground with Georgie, that's how Georgie's feeling. She's feeling a little bit calmer, but she's feeling the weight of everything on her. She's feeling small in the frame and small in her world. There's a third element to the visual language of this movie that's quite fantastical. It's literally fantasy. It didn't quite click for me. Those scenes actually took me out of the movie a little bit. I don't think the movie needed those scenes. There is a bit of visual flair to it. So I get from a purely aesthetic point of view why they might be included, but I don't think the movie needs them, and I actually think those scenes detracted from the realism of the movie. I get that it's a fantastical scene, it's a fantasy scene, they're not supposed to be realistic, but yeah, those scenes, they took me out of the actual drama. When I didn't want to be taken out of the drama, I was invested in the drama. I was invested in these characters and in Georgie and in Jason. And whenever these fantasy scenes came on screen, I was taken away from them, and I didn't want to be. So yeah, that was interesting. If anyone's seen the movie, let me know what your thoughts on that are in the comments below. And while you're doing that, if you want to see more content like this, you can always hit that subscribe button. So yeah, even though the film does deal with dark themes, a child losing a parent, losing their only parent, this isn't a dark movie. You would think, with the plot being what it is, and it being set on a council estate in London, that it would be a dark and gritty movie, but it's not. It's actually quite a light, bright, upbeat movie almost. It's got a lot of heart, and it wears its heart firmly on its sleeve. It's a very earnest and genuine film. My only criticism, other than the fantasy stuff we've talked about there, would be it's maybe a little bit too light-hearted in the way it deals with the overall themes and of loss and grief and estranged parents reconnecting with kids and vice versa. It feels like the movie was maybe missing one or two scenes of closure, of pathos, to tie in with the gritty realism of that gritty realistic life. Yeah, it feels like there was maybe just one or two scenes of drama that were missing. That's not to say I didn't enjoy this movie. I really did enjoy this movie. I thought it was very, very good. I thought the performances were very, very good. As I said, just the fantasy elements and maybe one or two scenes of closure, of kind of dramatic pathos, I feel might have elevated it a little bit more. But yeah, that being said, Really like this movie. It's coming out in UK cinemas in a week or two, I think, so definitely check it out if you can. I'm going to give this one 7 out of 10. I don't think it's the debut of the director. I think she, on IMDb, she's got 1 or 2 prior credits listed to that, but very much look forward to what this director brings out next. Likewise with the actors that are in this movie, with Harris Dickinson and Lola Campbell. I'll be keen to see what they do next. That's it, folks. Thanks very much for watching. I'll link to some other reviews of mine here, and I'll catch you in the next video.